Welcome back to episode 10 of the Cinematic Flight Reports, in which I'll fly Qatar Airways 777 from Dubai to Munich via Doha. After a 45-minute hop from the UAE on board QR's 777-300 flagship, I'll be connecting onto Qatar's long-haul Dinosaur, the 777-200 long range, flying to Munich with a block time of 6 hours and 20 minutes. Enjoy. The Waldorf Astoria Palm Jumeirah. This was my first time staying in a hotel on Dubai's artificial island. Sitting on the northern corner of the Palm's outer ring, the hotel has been welcoming guests since 2014. From the iconic Peacock Alley to its lavish suites, the property certainly lives up to the brand's standards. When I left Hilton Luxor in episode 9, I had already spent 99 nights at Hilton in June of 2021. And upon completing my 100th night, the Waldorf Astoria's team surprised me with a beautiful cake, as well as a custom card signed by team members in both English and German. To me, brand loyalty is not only about upgrades and rewards. When spending this much time each year in hotels, the most important thing is to feel at home, even when you're staying somewhere for the very first time. Honoring this occasion in such a personal way perfectly underlines the well-lived hospitality. Being one of now 3 Waldorf hotels in the UAE, the hotel delivered a solid experience through all of its outlets. Only the breakfast buffet fell short of expectations. At this level, I expect coffee to be handmade from a portafilter machine, as well as good eggs royale. In my opinion, I think using packaged hollandaise sauce and a thin and dry substitute for an English muffin is cutting corners on the wrong end. This contrasts heavily with the fantastic offerings at the other restaurants, such as the Vietnamese Lao or Heinz Beck's Social. Here, the Michelin flair is present, with contemporary Italian dishes executed with the finesse and precision one would expect from a fine dining restaurant. You can confidently choose the blind tasting menu and let the team guide you through the night as you watch Dubai's city lights from the window or terrace. Especially with its competitive rates during summer, the hotel is a good place to be for a few relaxed days on the beach in the afternoon sun. Leaving Dubai, I was booked on Qatar Airways morning slot QR1003 with a scheduled departure time of 5:30 AM. This super early flight serves only one single purpose: shuttling passengers to Doha in time for their morning connections without getting caught up in Emirates' own rush hour in Dubai.
Once this guy help you, he take 25.
Qatar Airways uses the once exclusive facilities of Dubai's Terminal 3, so you'll arrive at the airport just like you would for a flight on Emirates. I quickly made a stop at Emirates' luggage wrapping station, as I had purchased cheap synthetic bags in an attempt to bundle up my 60 kilos of luggage, which I had brought to Dubai from Cairo in episode 9. Having them wrapped, labeled and sent within 5 minutes of arrival made for a pretty smooth check-in experience. At 3 in the morning, most airports back home in Europe would be dead quiet. Not so Dubai, with many open counters for the more than 800 daily flights that operate on a tight schedule around the clock. Once on the departure level, I turned left and walked past the first line of duty-free shops, heading for the lounge.
Marhaba Lounge.
At this hour, the Marhaba Lounge was visited by the exact mix of travelers you'd expect. People that missed their flights, passengers with unfavorable connecting times desperate for sleep, and of course, guests with super early departures like myself. There were a few breakfast choices on display, as well as self-service coffee specialties and soft drinks. The available bar was decently stocked, yet the good stuff was available for purchase only. Contrary to Emirates facilities, this lounge can be entered by anyone with either a lounge access card like a priority pass, or by simply paying the fee. Therefore, I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't too busy. I left right after the morning prayer call for my gate, number B12. Qatar Airways usually sends 3 of these shuttles to Dubai in a day, with this one in the morning as well as 2 in the late evening, leaving within less than an hour of each other. All of them are solely serviced with wide-body aircraft, offering the full variety of QR's business class products, from the super diamond seats on their Dreamliners up to the luxurious Q suites found across their 777s and A350s. Today, I was lucky enough to set foot on a 777-300ER, equipped with 42 seats of Qatar's flagship cabin product, Q Suite. 4 years after being introduced into service, the immaculate design of the various suites continues to impress, and despite other airlines catching up and having also introduced suites to their fleets, no one was able to implement a more versatile concept that is catering as much to solo travelers as it does to couples or families. While I usually choose suites A-OK that open up to the window, I spotted an empty seat in the row behind me and convinced myself to try a forward-facing suite for a change. 11 makes the last row of Q Suite on this aircraft, and the seat here is closer to the aisle, but the layout feels more spacious after all. There really are no bad seats in a cabin this smart. I quickly checked back with the crew, firstly about filming on board and also about switching seats. They happily agreed with the change, and also transferred my welcome drink of fresh orange juice and brut champagne to my new suite, getting me all set for the short flight ahead. With an estimated flight time of only 45 minutes, I was not expecting anything close to a proper in-flight service. But Qatar Airways would teach me better. The one-page menu was full to the brim and offered not only a small snack, but a rich breakfast platter, even including a hot dish of your choice, specialty coffees like cappuccino and latte, all kinds of soft drinks, and such a splendid bar selection that the menu even ran out of space. These short regional flights are actually sold as first class, and a menu like this promises nothing less. Usually first class would also mean Arabic coffee and dates before departure, yet at this time of the year, Qatar Airways had not yet brought back all of its former features. Apart from that, the service so far had been indistinguishable from that on longer routes, meaning that I was also able to place my order on ground, even including an after takeoff beverage. With that done, we were pushed back onto the tarmac, where the dark of night had just vanished into a cloudy morning. About time to leave the gate. It did feel quite strange to taxi around Dubai airport while not being on an Emirates plane. That said, leaving Doha on an airline other than Qatar Airways must be equally quaint. After I buckled up, the cabin crew performed their final check, and we started our rather long taxi toward the runway. While Doha airport has its creepy bear, Dubai has this tower straight out of the War of the Worlds, ready to start walking off at any moment. Also, great nightmare material. Or maybe that's just my vivid imagination talking. Anyway, instead of choosing content from Qatar's Oryx One system, I switched on my own headphones. Even though the flight itself is of course not long enough to get you through an entire movie, you can get more out of the IFE than you might think. The system is available to you from the moment you sit down during the boarding process, and with a logged-in Privilege Club account, you could seamlessly continue watching your preferred content once you've boarded your connecting flight. Having now passed Terminal 1, we were heading straight to the runway, closing in on the rising sun, with our aircraft bound for Doha. Within minutes after the crew was released from their seats, I received my pre-ordered coffee specialty, an espresso macchiato. Just moments later, the neatly arranged breakfast platter made its way to my suite, together with a glass of still water, as well as rosé champagne. And this is truly stunning. This tray is compiled to cater to most passengers' tastes. From Qatar Airways classic hummus with hot Arabic bread and elegant feta quiche on the hearty side, to your choice of either a hot egg burrito or spinach wrap, all the way to fresh cut fruit, as well as a sugary peach Danish, you will surely find something that suits your palate. On top of that, you have access to the full variety of the drinks menu. The only restriction you might face is time. The champagnes served actually are the same as on long-haul business class flights. The one-page menu just doesn't allow for QR's usually detailed descriptions. And the Laurent Perrier Rosé was as good as ever, and I was happy to enjoy this early morning breakfast. The crew offered me another beverage, and I went with a hot chocolate. Yet there's only so much you can pull off when you merely have 25 minutes between climb and descent. But even as we were only minutes away from landing, the crew found a way to push boundaries even further. Perfectly tailored for the final approach, another hot chocolate made its way to my suite, but in a paper cup. It's such a simple thing to do, but it perfectly outlines the amount of effort the crew was willing to put in order to make my onboard experience as perfect as it possibly could have been. I have never seen anything like it. Of course, no one really needs a suite or a service this opulent on a short hop like this, but it felt amazing to see everything come together piece by piece to create this experience. And before I knew it, we had already touched down. Bottom line, I have nothing to add to this 45-minute flight. It definitely deserves to be called first class, and to my knowledge, no service concept on a commercial airline in this world beats it on a distance this short. Welcome to Doha. Leaving the aircraft doors, we essentially arrived time travelers, as the 1 hour difference in local time made us dock a few minutes earlier than we had left Dubai an hour ago. Although I had a good 2 hours before my flight to Munich would board, I didn't feel like a seat inside the business class lounge would add a lot of extra value to my trip. If the small hop from Dubai had made me eligible for entry to Qatar Airways Al Safa lounge, I would have reconsidered. Yet unfortunately, for arriving first-class guests traveling onwards in business class, a long-haul flight is required to be granted this privilege. Instead, I browsed through the nearby shops and venues before I eventually headed to the boarding gate. At about an hour before departure, passengers had gathered around gate C21 as boarding was just about to commence. This downstairs section of the departure hall only conducts boarding by bus, which always begins a little earlier compared to boarding from a jet bridge. And this is what awaited us on board Qatar Airways old 777-200 LR. Stepping on board this aircraft even felt like going a little further back in time. Once connecting Doha and Auckland on the world's formerly longest flight, it had to step aside and make way for new cabins and new innovations. The 222 configuration has since been replaced on all of QR's widebodies except the A330s. And as the flight was not fully booked, I was able to maintain the seat next to me vacant and decided to start this flight just like I did the last one, with a glass of champagne and a glance at the in-flight menu. Contrary to the 8:20 AM departure time, QR decided not to serve breakfast with a pre-landing snack in favor of a full lunch as well as a brunch platter, together with the usual snacks and a cheese plate. The wine list revealed a rich selection of 2 champagnes, as well as 3 white and red wines each, completed by both port and a dessert wine. I really like that by adding these little paragraphs for each choice, Qatar Airways gives its passengers a better understanding of the wines available. Taste notes, pairing suggestions, as well as a brief history of terroir and winemakers are useful to both wine novices and connoisseurs. It helps, and it's opening the door to the world of wine for anyone who's interested. Outlining a wine's history and heritage leads to more appreciation for the selection's quality altogether. After patiently taxiing through one of the 2 busiest time slots of the day, we were on our way and headed towards Munich. Once again, the crew began serving after takeoff drinks swiftly, and that also included made-to-order mocktails like the pineapple punch, which I had selected. Served together with another glass of the L'Europe Rosé and the heated assortment of mixed nuts, I had plenty of choices at my seat to cover the wait until the crew had finished service preparations. Just as when flying Q-Suite, today's menu allows for a dine anytime option, so one can customize what and when to eat, based entirely on personal preference. And this of course also applies for any beverage. Looking at the pineapple punch, the drink has remained my go-to on Qatar Airways throughout time and consists of both orange and pineapple juice, ginger ale, and is served with a ring of sugar around the glass's rim. Being German, I have a thing for bubbling fruit juices, and this is a welcome twist on our otherwise boring apple spritzes. Apart from this tradition, the airline also keeps changing its listed wines regularly. Over the past years, Qatar Airways has upgraded its champagne selection significantly, serving different qualities and houses, and has now arrived at a luxurious cuvée, which at around €75 a bottle, not many others would serve in business class. Moments later, my table was prepared, and the first course was about to be served. Hiding under the 3 plastic covers was Qatar Airways' classic mezze selection of hummus, tabbouleh and muhammada, accompanied by bread and butter, which are paired with a glass of the Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. Even though it was barely 9 AM, I chose to start with lunch, since I got up in the middle of the night and had already had breakfast on the way to Doha. This is exactly why a dine anytime service makes so much sense, and for a global airline like Qatar Airways, offering it is a necessity. To minimize contact between passengers and crew, mezze and wine were brought all together on one tray, similar to how Etihad handled it during the time. Regarding the food, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Gulf carriers know how to make mezze, and it's a fail-safe, delicious choice. Together with warm Arabic bread, it makes a perfect starter and should not be missed. Next up, I chose one of the more exciting appetizers I have seen on Qatar Airways menus. Poached lobster with crab leg and fruit chard. Half a lobster tail was laid out to perfection next to a colourful chard with pieces of crab on the side as well as some tomatoes and garnish. The presentation of the plate clearly is a 10 out of 10. The tomatoes green and yellow make the dish vibrant and the colours pop. Simply a great composition, especially for an in-flight dish. I also went for a refill on the Sauvignon Blanc. Qatar Airways describes it as a garden in a glass, hinting at zesty lime flavours, which is pretty good phrasing, as the acidity should definitely benefit the lobster. And as a final touch, I drizzled the contents of the little cup onto the plate, which held a sweet and spicy sauce with chili. This is one of those dishes that one can almost taste, just by looking at it. The sweet and buttery taste of the lobster, together with the spicy sauce cut by the acidity of both the fruit as well as white wine, made for a fantastic flavour. The dish, while essentially being so simple, reminds me of the airline's slogan when Q-Suite was first introduced. First in business. But where there's so much light, sometimes there's also darkness. What followed as the main course was a plate of chicken majbouz. It's not really about how it looks, as the rice-based dish by nature is not the most appealing. But first of all, the portion itself is way too large, and the chicken, unfortunately, turned dry as dust during the heating process. And that was something not even the Bordeaux wine was able to fix. The 2013 Fernand Ségur is a great pick of the second rank of Saint-Estèphe's. Bold, with a pretty dense dark berry, something I really enjoyed. The Bordeaux region is so big and different that it's always nice to find a bottle on the menu, may it be a Saint-Emilion, Pauillac, or as in this case, a Saint-Estèphe. Again, I was impressed by how much the taste notes can be of help, as they first of all paint a pretty accurate picture of what you're going to get, but secondly, make you taste the wine more carefully as you're looking for its characteristics. While waiting for dessert, I tried to connect to the aircraft's Wi-Fi service. Now cruising over Turkish mountains, the satellite connection unfortunately turned out to be disrupted, leaving me unable to connect to the network. Together with a fresh tablecloth, another glass of Laurent Perrier was served, only moments before dessert would arrive. Made entirely from Pinot Noir grapes, notes of raspberry and red currant fruits make this excellent champagne hard to resist. Qatar Airways then served their take on cannoli. Sicilian cream rolls sitting on top of very dense and rich chocolate mousse, which tasted great and would have worked perfectly with a cappuccino or espresso, yet I didn't order anything else on the side. As the final course, I then went with the cheese plate, which the airline served with a generous selection of condiments, as well as various pieces of bread. I have seen many cheese plates on board of aircraft, and even in first class they often appear boring, and certainly don't arrive arranged like this. Sure, serving 4 cuts of cheese is one thing, but complementing them carefully with this variety of fresh and dried fruit, chutney, bread and nuts is exceptional, and again embodies much more of a first-class experience than expected. Adding the thick sweetness of the 20-year-old Tony Port made for an excellent finish to today's meal service. Now, let's take a look at the seat. In 7 rows, Qatar Airways installed 42 business class seats, which all have a similar layout. The seat's design and color sparks resemblance to one model used in one of the A320 configurations. As you would expect, the headrest is fully adjustable and can also offer support on the sides if needed, making it comfortable to relax in any position. The seat of course is reclining into a fully flat bed, yet this comes at a slight angle. I like that the armrest automatically retracts with the seat, as it gives you more space when lying down. With a pitch of 78 inches, the lying surface is big, yet the bed looks even bigger. The key is the extra space between the two pods themselves, which makes your personal space appear extremely airy. Once you desire more comfort, you may use the usual blanket and pillow, and with its cool or warm side, you most likely end up satisfied. With a fresh cappuccino at hand, I decided to close my eyes for a couple of minutes before I turned to the IFE. In case you require a little help with your nap, the Brix amenity kit still supplies the essentials like earplugs, sleep mask, socks, as well as lip balm and whatever city cream is supposed to be. With the wired headphones at your seat, you may connect to the IFE, which runs the same Oryx-1 system that you will find in the airline's newer cabins. Although screen and remote both definitely showed their age, they worked fine, yet you will have to do without a touchscreen, as the distance between the TV and the seat is just too big. The screen itself is rather clear, but glaring is its biggest flaw. You will also constantly see what your neighbor is watching, which definitely can be an annoyance. I then ordered a final cup of cappuccino, yet the cabin attendant convinced me to try a latte macchiato instead, which came in this beautiful insulated mug. Seconds later, we started our descent into Munich. This Boeing 777-200LR was a great aircraft in its prime, yet you do recognize its age. Its biggest issue though has nothing to do with that, because for me, that is the 222 configuration, which primarily caters to two passengers traveling together. My experience today was really pleasant, but sitting next to a stranger and even worse, trying to climb over each other's legs when one's taking a nap, is a situation I try to avoid at all costs. That said, both the very airy setup as well as the flatbed make the aircraft ideal for shorter flights, such as Qatar Airways Regional First Class. As this version has the exact same number of seats as some of the Q-Suite setups, it also works as a backup from time to time, and regularly shows up on routes to Europe, or sometimes even North America. Qatar Airways' outstanding catering, and especially today's thoughtful crew, were the key to this luxurious travel experience. From the unique Q-Suite service to the elevated wine list, Qatar Airways delivered on their promise of excellence, even while operating one of their Dinosaurs. Here in Munich, I had booked the airport's VIP service, which picked me up right at the aircraft's door and would handle all arrival formalities. From here, we would drive towards the so-called VIP wing, a private facility located at Module E of the airport's Terminal 3. After my stay, they would also shuttle me to my connecting flight as I travel onwards to my home airport of Düsseldorf. Driving by the parked jets around the tarmac is always my favorite part. Inside the VIP facility, you'll find a lot of open space that all guests can use, including recliners as well as office pods. If you desire more privacy, you may also book one of the 5 available suites, each equipped with unique features. I took a shower in one of the complimentary shower suites and then walked past the a la carte restaurant towards the terrace, located in the building's outer corner. Here you'll find a truly Bavarian beer garden that offers beautiful seating in both sun and shade, and you can order from the same menu that you'll find inside. The offering varies by season as well as by time of day, from breakfast in the morning to an all-day dining menu featuring Italian classics as well as Bavarian specialties, just in case tasting a German Weisswurst is what you want to try during your layover. The team also took care of rechecking my luggage before driving me back to the aircraft. For the final part of the journey, I had purchased a Lufthansa ticket to Düsseldorf for a flight that would take just about 1 hour. Even though one shouldn't compare the hop from Dubai to Doha to this regional business class flight on an A320, I obviously can't resist. Sitting in a standard economy seat that for some reason makes most of Europe's business class, wistfulness just started to sit in. And to be honest, looking at the plate, this was still a good day. Soon after, we were already cutting through the clouds and started our descent towards Düsseldorf Airport. I can always see the landmarks of my hometown during approach. The pattern has been the same since I was a kid, and I still remember arriving home from vacation during school holidays, passing over the very same treetops as today. Landing here therefore always feels special. And in the not-so-distant future, Düsseldorf will join Qatar Airways network for the very first time and receive its own daily connection to Doha. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care, and bye-bye.